Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle.
And that's your actions do not meet your delivered speech.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Guess what just happened?
Meghan Markle has spoken on some of the world's biggest stages, addressed millions across the globe, and earned a reputation as a confident and articulate public figure. Yet despite her years of experience in front of cameras, microphones, and large audiences, many people still feel that something does not fully connect when she speaks. So why do some of her speeches win praise and admiration while others generate criticism? Is it her delivery, her tone, her body language, or is there a deeper reason audiences seem to notice and react to? And do you believe Meghan Markle is really struggling to connect when she speaks? Or is the criticism unfair and based on perception? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. To help us create more videos and uncover the latest royal story, please subscribe. The struggle to connect with the crowd. Meghan Markle has remained one of the most widely discussed public figures in the world for several years. From the moment she joined the British royal family through her marriage to Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, her life shifted into the global spotlight. Every public appearance, interview, and speech quickly became headline news, followed and analyzed by audiences across different countries. Even after she and Prince Harry stepped back from royal duties and began a new chapter of their lives in the United States, the attention around Meghan did not fade. Instead, it changed shape. The focus moved from royal protocol and duties to something more personal: how she presents herself in public, how she speaks, and how her messages are received by audiences. Over time, a quiet but constant debate has followed her. It is not just about what she does, but how people feel when she speaks. Critics often raise a simple but persistent question: why does Meghan Markle, despite her clear confidence, media experience, and comfort in front of cameras, sometimes appear to struggle to fully connect with audiences when she delivers public remarks? On the surface, Meghan does not seem like someone who lacks communication skills. She has worked as an actress, appeared in interviews for years, and is used to speaking in front of cameras and large audiences. She carries herself with confidence, speaks clearly, and often appears composed even in high-pressure situations. Because of this, the criticism does not focus on whether she can speak. It focuses on how her speaking is received. Supporters argue that she is articulate and intentional with her words, often choosing careful phrasing to express complex ideas. But critics suggest that something still feels missing in certain public moments. They claim that while her speeches may be well-structured, they do not always create the emotional pull or instant connection that keeps audiences fully engaged. This is where the debate becomes more interesting. It is no longer about fame, influence, or how often she appears in the media. It becomes a more subtle and human question about communication itself. Why do some speakers instantly draw people in, while others sometimes leave audiences feeling distant? In Meghan Markle's case, critics believe the issue is not visibility or confidence. It is something harder to define. It is about how her words land once they reach the listener. Because speaking in public is not only about delivering information, it is about creating a feeling, building trust, and holding attention in a way that makes people feel personally connected to what is being said. Despite the fact that Meghan Markle is known for her oratory prowess, critics believe that she struggles to keep her audience engaged when speaking. But what could be the reason behind this perception? Is it based on the way she delivers her messages, or is she being unfairly judged? Let's uncover the details. Meghan's public voice under scrutiny. Over the years, Meghan Markle's public appearances have continued to attract strong attention and mixed reactions from people around the world. Every time she speaks in an interview, delivers a speech, or appears at an international event, her words are carefully watched and widely discussed. For some, she is a confident and thoughtful speaker who uses her platform to highlight important issues. For others, something about her public delivery does not always create the emotional impact they expect from someone with her level of fame and influence. This difference in opinion has slowly shaped a bigger conversation around her communication style. Critics often point out that even when Meghan speaks about serious and deeply important topics such as online safety, mental health, or the well-being of children, the audience response does not always match the seriousness of the subject. In their view, the reactions can sometimes feel quiet or less emotional than expected, especially considering how important and sensitive these issues are. This has led many observers to ask a very simple but powerful question. Is the issue with the message itself, or is it something about how the message is being delivered? Supporters of Meghan Markle argue that she speaks with intention and care. They believe she chooses her words carefully and tries to bring attention to topics that matter in today's world. From their perspective, the value of her message is not reduced just because audience reactions may differ from one event to another. They see her as someone trying to use her voice for awareness and positive change. However, critics see things differently. They believe that communication is not only about choosing the right topic or speaking clearly. In their view, it is also about how deeply a speaker can connect with the audience in the moment. They argue that a powerful speech is not just heard, it is felt. It draws people in emotionally, holds their attention, and leaves a lasting impression long after the words are spoken. What makes this debate even more interesting is that it does not focus on whether Meghan's messages are important. Most people agree that the topics she discusses matter. Instead, the debate focuses on something more subtle and harder to measure: emotional connection. Why do some speeches instantly move people, while others, even when addressing the same serious issues, seem to pass without the same level of emotional response? In Meghan Markle's case, this question continues to follow her. Some believe the issue lies in the structure and delivery of her speeches. Others think it is simply a matter of audience perception and expectation. And because there is no simple answer, the conversation continues every time she steps in front of a microphone. One reason Meghan is often criticized for her public speaking is that some critics feel she does not always connect effectively with her audience. But what other factors might have made her weaknesses more noticeable? Could there be someone against whom her speaking ability is being measured? If so, who is that person, and what do they do differently? Let's find out. The Princess Catherine contrast. In many conversations about Meghan Markle's public speaking and public image, one name often comes up again and again: Princess Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Over time, she has become a natural point of comparison, especially when people discuss how public figures connect with audiences in real life. Whenever Princess Catherine appears in public, she is often described in very similar ways by different observers. Many say she comes across as calm, steady, and warm in her interactions. Whether she is attending a formal royal engagement or meeting members of the public during visits, her presence is frequently seen as soft but confident, never rushed, and easy to approach. This sense of ease is something that many people notice immediately. Supporters and commentators often highlight the small details in her behavior rather than big, dramatic moments. For example, she is sometimes praised for taking a few seconds to greet people in their own language when visiting other countries. In other moments, people point out how she listens closely, maintains eye contact, and gives her full attention when speaking to someone. These may seem like small gestures, but for many observers, they create a strong feeling of connection in a very natural way. Because of this, supporters often say that Princess Catherine does not seem to perform connection in a forced or scripted way. Instead, they believe she simply creates it without effort. To them, her communication style feels natural, human, and grounded. It gives people the impression that she is fully present in every moment, which helps her build trust and warmth with the public almost instantly. This reputation has made her one of the most positively received members of the royal family when it comes to public interactions. People often describe feeling comfortable around her even from a distance, simply based on how she speaks and carries herself. As a result, comparisons between Princess Catherine and Meghan Markle have become a regular part of public discussion. Not necessarily because they are identical in role or personality, but because they represent two very different communication styles in the eyes of observers. On one side, Catherine is often seen as calm, effortless, and naturally engaging. On the other side, Meghan's style is frequently analyzed more closely, with people debating whether her speeches and public appearances create the same kind of immediate emotional connection. This contrast has led to a growing curiosity. People are not just comparing two public figures, they are trying to understand what actually makes someone truly connect with an audience. Is it tone, body language, simplicity of words, or something even more subtle? And that question continues to shape how both women are discussed in public conversations today. Catherine is often regarded as a more effective communicator because she carefully uses language that audiences easily understand and appreciate. But does Meghan approach language in the same way when addressing the public? Or does she place less emphasis on it, even when her attention is called to the issue? Let's uncover the astonishing details. The French moment that sparked debate. One moment that has often been discussed in conversations about Meghan Markle's public communication style involves a public appearance she made alongside Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. The event, which took place during a Canada-related engagement with a French-speaking audience, later became a talking point online, not because of what was said in detail, but because of a brief interaction between the couple. During the appearance, Prince Harry was heard encouraging Meghan Markle to greet the audience in French. The suggestion was simple and light in tone, meant as a friendly prompt during the public moment. However, Meghan responded with laughter and chose not to do it. Instead of switching into French, she continued her speech in English, offering her thanks and greetings in a more general and widely understood way. At first glance, it was a small and casual exchange, something that could easily be missed in a longer public event. But because Meghan has previously spoken in interviews about her interest in learning French and her efforts to study the language over the years, the moment quickly gained attention once it circulated online. For some observers, the reaction was harmless and natural. Supporters argue that not every public moment needs to be perfect or multilingual. From their point of view, Meghan's laughter showed ease and comfort rather than hesitation. They believe she simply chose to keep her speech simple and direct, ensuring that everyone in the audience could understand her without confusion or interruption. However, in critics' view, it became another example in a broader discussion about how public figures create connections with their audiences. They suggested that small gestures, such as greeting people in their language, can make a meaningful difference in how a message is received. To them, declining the opportunity, even in a light-hearted way, felt like a missed chance to build a closer bond with the audience in that setting. What makes this moment stand out is not the language itself, but what it represents in the ongoing debate around Meghan Markle's communication style. It adds another layer to the question people often ask about her public appearances. Does she always take every opportunity to create an instant connection with the people in front of her? For supporters, the answer is no concern at all. For critics, it becomes part of a bigger pattern they believe is worth discussing. And so, a short, almost playful exchange between Meghan and Prince Harry continues to resurface whenever people analyze how she speaks in public. In the end, the moment remains simple on the surface, but in public discussion, it has taken on a much larger meaning than anyone may have originally intended. Even when Meghan was reportedly encouraged by her husband to speak in French to better connect with a certain audience, she still chose to speak in English. But does she understand the language she was advised to use? How fluent is she in it? And are there other foreign languages she understands besides French? Let's unravel the details. The language debate. Meghan Markle has often spoken in public about her interest in languages and her curiosity about different cultures around the world. Over the years, she has mentioned studying French and has also shown moments where she engages with Spanish in real-life situations. This has led many people to see her as someone comfortable navigating different languages, at least in informal or personal settings. Her academic background also supports this image. Meghan studied at Northwestern University, where she double-majored in theater and international relations. This combination gave her both performance training and exposure to global topics, which later shaped the way she communicates in public life. After university, she also gained international experience through work placements, including an internship at the United States Embassy in Buenos Aires, Argentina. During that time, she reportedly used her Spanish skills in everyday communication, further strengthening her comfort with the language. In more recent years, there have also been public moments where Meghan Markle has been seen speaking Spanish in relaxed environments. For example, during visits to Colombia, she interacted with children using simple Spanish phrases, which many observers noted positively. In community settings in Los Angeles, she has also been heard engaging in Spanish conversations. Father Greg Boyle, founder of Homeboy Industries, once described her Spanish as very good, pointing to her ability to communicate naturally rather than formally in that language. These examples have led supporters to highlight Meghan's clear willingness to connect with people beyond English-speaking audiences. In their view, these moments show that she is not limited by language, but instead has the ability to adapt and engage in different cultural settings when the situation feels natural and informal. However, despite these examples, critics often raise a different point. They argue that in more formal public appearances, especially during speeches, international events, or high-profile engagements, Meghan does not consistently use the languages she has studied or spoken in private or informal settings. Instead, she often delivers her remarks in English, even when addressing multilingual or international audiences. This contrast has created an ongoing question in public discussion. If Meghan Markle has studied languages, used them in real-life experiences, and demonstrated basic fluency in certain situations, then why are those skills not always visible in formal public moments? From this question, two different interpretations emerge. One suggests that language use in public is a personal choice, shaped by comfort, clarity, and the need to reach the widest audience possible. The other suggests that even small language gestures could help strengthen connections and make public appearances feel more personal and engaging. And so, what might seem like a simple question about language becomes part of a larger debate about communication style. Is it about what someone can do, or what they choose to do when all eyes are watching? Beyond claims that Meghan may understand or occasionally speak French and Spanish, has she ever tried to adopt a British accent when engaging with her husband's people? How fluent is she in adjusting her speech, and does she find it challenging? Could this have influenced her decision to step back and live outside Britain? Let's find out. Meghan's British accent scrutinized. Linguistics expert Professor Dennis Preston of Oklahoma State University has weighed in on one of the more unusual debates surrounding Meghan Markle: how she actually sounds when she speaks, and how people interpret her voice. After carefully listening to recordings of her speech, Professor Preston explained that he did not find any clear or consistent evidence that Meghan Markle has developed a British accent. Over the years, there has been ongoing public discussion and speculation about whether her speech style has shifted due to her time in the United Kingdom and her role within the royal family. However, according to his analysis, what many people believe they hear does not fully match what is actually present in her speech. In simple terms, he suggests that the human mind can sometimes play a bigger role in shaping perception than the sound itself. People may expect a certain change in her voice, and that expectation can influence how they interpret what they hear. Professor Preston's conclusion is straightforward but powerful. What we think we hear is often shaped more by our expectations than by the actual reality of the sound. In other words, the brain can fill in gaps, assume changes, or even adjust perception based on what someone believes should be there, rather than what is truly being said. This idea becomes more interesting when applied to public figures like Meghan Markle. Because she is constantly in the spotlight, every detail of her appearance, tone, and speech is closely examined and discussed. Even small changes can quickly become widely debated topics online and in the media. In Meghan's case, this has meant that discussions about her voice have followed her for years, often resurfacing during interviews, speeches, or public appearances. Some people claim they hear differences in tone or accent, while others insist her speech remains consistent and unchanged. What Professor Preston highlights is that this kind of disagreement is not unusual when it comes to public perception. When a person is frequently discussed in the media, especially someone as well known as Meghan Markle, people may begin to interpret their behavior through the lens of expectation rather than observation. As a result, perception can sometimes feel stronger than reality. Once an idea takes hold in public conversation, it can be repeated, shared, and reinforced. And in Meghan Markle's situation, this perception has become part of a wider narrative that follows her every time she speaks, adding another layer to how her public communication is viewed and discussed. Beyond Professor Dennis Preston's strong belief that Meghan doesn't acquire the British accent even when she tries, could Meghan be lacking communication ability? Or does she have a background that strengthens and prepares her for excellent oratory skills? If so, why is she struggling to use her skills to connect with her audience? Let's uncover the details. Meghan Markle's communication paradox. Despite the criticism she often receives, Meghan Markle's background does not suggest that she lacks communication skills. In fact, her early life and career suggest the opposite. Long before she became a globally recognized public figure, she spent years building experience in areas that naturally develop strong speaking and presentation abilities. Meghan studied theater and international relations at Northwestern University. This combination is important because it brought together two different but useful skill sets. Theater training focuses on voice control, body language, timing, and emotional expression. Skills that help a person speak clearly and confidently in front of an audience. International relations, on the other hand, exposes someone to global ideas, cultures, and ways of communicating with different types of people. Together, these fields shaped a foundation that is strongly connected to public communication. Outside of her education, Meghan Markle also gained real-world experience through acting. Acting requires a person to understand tone, emotion, and delivery, as well as how to connect with an audience through performance. Over time, this kind of experience can make someone more comfortable in front of cameras, crowds, and public speaking situations. It also teaches how to manage pressure while being observed by large audiences. In addition to English, Meghan has also shown comfort in using other languages in informal settings, especially Spanish. In relaxed and natural environments, she has been seen engaging with Spanish speakers, which suggests that she is not limited to a single form of communication. These moments show that she can adjust her language depending on the situation and the people she is interacting with. Because of this background, the criticism surrounding her communication style becomes more complex. It is not as simple as saying she lacks ability or experience. On paper, and even in practice, she has many of the tools that strong public speakers usually develop over time: training, exposure, and real-life practice in communication-heavy environments. So if Meghan Markle clearly can speak, present herself, and communicate across different settings, then the question shifts away from ability and moves towards something more subtle. Why do some of her public moments still feel, to certain viewers, less connected or less emotionally engaging than expected? Some people believe it is simply a matter of style or audience expectation. Others think it has to do with how messages are structured or delivered in high-pressure public settings. And because communication is not only about skill, but also about perception, the answer is not always clear. What remains consistent, however, is the tension between ability and reception. Meghan Markle may have the training and experience expected of a confident communicator, yet public opinion continues to question how her message is ultimately received by audiences watching around the world. Meghan Markle's academic background exposed her to global communication styles, which she has demonstrated over time. But why is she not making positive use of this precious gift? Or is she overdoing it in a way that bores her audience? Now, let's explore the problem critics point out in Meghan's speech delivery. Meghan Markle's speech style. One of the most common criticisms raised about Meghan Markle's public speaking is not focused on the topics she chooses, but rather on how she organizes and delivers her message. In other words, it is not necessarily about what she says, it is about the way she puts her thoughts together when speaking in public. Critics argue that in some of her speeches, especially when addressing serious and emotional subjects such as online safety, child protection, and mental health, her language can become long, detailed, and highly structured. Instead of using short, simple sentences that are easy for everyone to follow, they say she sometimes leans toward more formal and complex phrasing. This can make her message sound more polished, but also more difficult for some listeners to absorb in real time. When a speech becomes too layered or too dense, it can create a small gap between the speaker and the audience. People may still be listening carefully, and they may still understand the general idea, but the emotional impact can become weaker. The words are there, but the feeling behind them may not fully land the way it is intended to. Supporters of Meghan Markle would argue that her careful choice of words shows thoughtfulness and seriousness, especially when dealing with sensitive topics. They may say that complex issues sometimes require more detailed explanations, and that simplifying them too much could reduce their meaning or importance. However, critics see it differently. They believe that in public speaking, clarity often matters more than complexity. A powerful speech, in their view, is not measured by how advanced the vocabulary is, but by how quickly and deeply it connects with everyday people. They argue that when sentences become too long or too formal, the emotional thread of the message can be lost, even if the facts are present. This difference in perspective has fueled an ongoing debate about communication style. It raises a simple but important question. Should public speeches aim to sound more intelligent and carefully structured, or should they aim to be simple, direct, and emotionally immediate? In Meghan Markle's case, this question becomes even more central because of the global attention she receives. Every speech she gives is analyzed, replayed, and discussed in detail. As a result, even small choices in wording or structure can become part of a larger conversation about her ability to connect with audiences. Ultimately, the criticism does not claim that her message lacks meaning. Instead, it suggests that sometimes the structure of her delivery may create distance between her words and the emotional response of the audience. And in public speaking, that emotional connection is often what people remember most long after the speech is over. One of the challenges Meghan faces in delivering her speeches is how she structures her message. But is there anything wrong with her message structure? Or is her message not resonating with the audience the way it should? If so, which topics have made it obvious that Meghan is struggling to pass her message across? Let's find out. The missing emotional picture. Strong speeches are often remembered not just for the words themselves, but for the pictures they create in people's minds. When a speaker is truly effective, the audience not only hears the message, they can almost see it happening. They imagine the scene, feel the emotion behind it, and relate it to moments from their own lives. This is what helps a speech stay in someone's memory long after it ends. Critics of Meghan Markle's public speaking style argue that this is the area where her delivery does not always land as strongly as it could. They suggest that in some of her speeches, her storytelling tends to stay at a more general level. Instead of focusing on small, vivid details that bring a story to life, they say she sometimes uses broader descriptions that explain the idea, but do not fully paint a clear emotional picture. For example, Rather than describing a specific moment in a way that allows the audience to feel like they are inside the scene, critics argue that the storytelling can remain slightly distant. The message is still understandable, and the topic is still clear, but the emotional closeness may not always be as strong as it could be. This does not mean the message is confusing or unclear. In fact, most observers agree that her speeches are structured in a way that makes logical sense. The issue critics point out is more subtle. It is about how deeply the audience is drawn into the story itself. When storytelling relies more on general statements rather than personal, relatable images, some viewers may understand the point but feel less emotionally involved in it. Supporters, however, may see this differently. They might argue that Meghan Markle often speaks about serious and complex topics where careful wording is necessary. From their perspective, staying broad and respectful in language can sometimes be a deliberate choice, especially when discussing sensitive issues that affect many people. Critics maintain that the most powerful speeches are usually the ones that make people feel like they are part of the moment being described. A simple image, a small detail, or a personal scene can often have more emotional impact than long explanations. It is not about making the message bigger. It is about making it feel real and close. Storytelling plays such an important role in public speaking. It bridges the gap between information and emotion. And in Meghan Markle's case, the debate continues around whether her storytelling style always creates that strong emotional bridge for her audience. In the end, the discussion is not about whether her messages matter. It is about how deeply those messages are felt once they are delivered. Meghan is seen as someone who lacks the storytelling ability to connect with her audience in a way that gets her message to their hearts. But is there a way Meghan could rectify this challenge? Or, no matter how she tries, public opinion about her speaking ability can't be changed. Let's unravel the details. Beyond words and visibility, at the heart of this entire discussion lies a very simple but powerful idea. Communication is not only about speaking clearly, it is about creating a real connection with the people listening. Meghan Markle is widely seen as intelligent, well-spoken, and highly experienced in public life. Over the years, she has remained a very visible figure on the global stage, especially through her work, interviews, and public appearances alongside Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. With that level of exposure, every word she says is often carefully observed, replayed, and analyzed by audiences around the world. However, critics argue that being visible and being understood on a deeper emotional level are not the same thing. In their view, just because someone is seen and heard often does not automatically mean they are fully connecting with the people listening. They believe that emotional connection is something different. It is something felt, not just noticed. This is why the debate around Meghan Markle's communication style continues to grow. It is no longer simply about whether she speaks well or whether her messages are clear. Instead, it has become a deeper question about impact and emotional response. If Meghan Markle were to simplify her language, focus more on personal storytelling, and use stronger, more direct emotional imagery in her speeches, would people respond to her differently? Would audiences feel more engaged, more connected, and more emotionally involved in what she is saying? Or is something else happening beneath the surface? Some observers believe the issue may not be only about speech style at all. Instead, they suggest that audience perception plays a major role. In other words, people may already have certain expectations or opinions before she even begins speaking. And once those expectations are formed, they can quietly influence how every word is received, interpreted, and remembered. This creates a more complicated picture, because if perception shapes interpretation, then communication is no longer just about the speaker. It also becomes about the listener, what they expect, what they believe, and how they emotionally process what they hear. And so the question remains open, with no simple answer. Is the challenge in how Meghan Markle communicates? Or is it in how her communication is received by a public that is already forming opinions before she even finishes her first sentence? In the end, this ongoing debate points to something much bigger than one public figure. It highlights a basic truth about human communication itself. Speaking is only half the story. The other half is whether the message truly reaches the hearts of the people listening. And that is where the real struggle may lie, not in speaking itself, but in connection. So, what do you think about Meghan's struggling to speak? Could she be nervous, or is she being unfairly targeted? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.